Emily arrived on a gray afternoon with rain on her coat and two worn suitcases, and Claire knew before a word was spoken that this move would change everything. The front door closed behind them, sealing a new chapter into the quiet Portland house where routines had been steady and predictable. Emily tried to smile, but the effort showed. And Claire caught the tremor in her sister's hands as she set the bags down, a clear sign that life had not been kind lately. The broken engagement, the sudden job loss, the long drive south, none of it needed explaining, because Claire could read it all in Emily's eyes. Daniel stepped forward without thinking, lifting the heavier suitcase and offering a calm welcome. That felt safe and familiar, the same way he handled everything. He was gentle, not curious, and that was what made Claire's chest tighten. She loved that about him, the way he never pushed, the way he made people feel seen without asking for anything in return. As Emily settled into the guest room, Claire moved through the house, noticing small things she had never questioned before. Like how Daniel straightened the hallway picture frames, or how his voice softened when he spoke to someone who was hurting. Dinner was simple and quiet, full of polite conversation that skimmed the surface, but beneath it ran a current of worry Claire could not name. She watched Emily laugh at one of Daniel's dry jokes, a sound that was lighter than anything she had heard from her sister in months, and the moment stayed with her long after the dishes were done. That night, when the house finally went still, Claire lay awake beside Daniel, listening to the steady rhythm of his breathing and feeling the weight of responsibilities settle in. Emily needed time, space, and safety, and Claire knew how easily comfort could be misunderstood when someone was vulnerable. Turning toward him, she spoke softly, careful not to wake the house, and asked him to be mindful while Emily stayed with them, to be kind but distant, supportive but clear. Because her sister was fragile and the lines mattered, Daniel did not question her, did not ask for reasons or reassurance. He simply nodded, his expression serious, as if he understood more than she had said. In that quiet agreement, Claire felt both relief and fear, knowing that trust was being tested before it had even been challenged. The next morning came too fast, bringing coffee, rain-soaked streets, and the start of a new routine that felt unfamiliar from the first step. Emily joined them at the table, trying to fit into the rhythm of a life that was not hers. And Daniel greeted her warmly before stepping back, giving space that was respectful but noticeable. Claire saw it instantly, the careful distance, and wondered if she had asked for too much or exactly what was needed. As Emily talked about looking for work and starting over, Claire felt hope mixed with unease, because the house now held three hearts moving at different speeds. The day pressed forward, full of small moments that hinted at something larger waiting beneath the surface. And Claire realized that inviting her sister in had not just opened a door, but had set something in motion that would test love, loyalty, and the quiet promises people make when they believe they are doing the right thing. Days passed quickly, and the house found a new rhythm that felt both busy and uneasy at the same time, with Emily trying to rebuild her life and Claire watching closely without saying much. Every morning began with quiet footsteps, coffee brewing, and polite smiles that never stayed long enough to become relaxed. Emily spent hours sending job applications, sitting by the window with her laptop, hoping for replies that would change her future. While Daniel left early for work and returned with groceries or small gestures meant for the household, not for her. He was always kind, always respectful, but there was a clear space he kept, a line he never crossed. And Emily felt it every time he ended a conversation first or excused himself from the room. At first she told herself she was imagining it, blaming her own loneliness and recent heartbreak, but the pattern grew harder to ignore. She missed easy conversations, missed feeling normal around people, and the quiet distance made her feel like a guest who had overstayed her welcome. Claire noticed the tension too, though she tried to hide it behind routines and smiles, telling herself that patience would smooth everything out. One evening, while folding laundry together, Emily finally asked what she had been holding inside. her voice careful but strained, wondering if she had done something wrong or said something that made Daniel uncomfortable. Claire's hands froze for a moment, and she felt the weight of her own request return sharply, realizing how easily good intentions could hurt someone. She reassured Emily with gentle words, explaining that Daniel was simply being respectful, and that nothing was wrong, but she could see doubt linger in her sister's eyes. Emily nodded, pretending to accept the answer. Yet the feeling of being kept at a distance stayed with her long after the conversation ended. Meanwhile, Daniel carried his promise silently, aware of every step he took, every word he chose, measuring his actions so they could not be misunderstood. He noticed Emily's efforts, her quiet strength, and her moments of frustration, but he responded with steady politeness instead of warmth, believing that restraint was the safest form of care. At night, when the house grew quiet again, Daniel lay awake thinking about the strange balance he was trying to keep. Wanting to help without crossing a line, wanting to be decent without causing confusion. Claire sensed his struggle and felt torn between relief and guilt. Grateful for his loyalty, yet uneasy about the emotional distance growing inside her own home. Small moments added to the strain, like shared dinners that felt rushed, laughter that ended too soon, and long silences that said more than words ever could. Emily started taking longer walks alone, filling her evenings with calls to friends back home, trying to remind herself that this stay was temporary and that she was still in control of her future. The house, once a place of comfort, now felt like a space holding too many unspoken thoughts. And each person moved carefully, afraid that one wrong step could upset the fragile balance. Beneath the calm surface, emotions built quietly. And it became clear that the distance meant to protect everyone was also creating a tension none of them knew how to release, setting the stage for a moment when restraint and honesty would finally be tested. The turning point came suddenly, the kind of moment no one could have predicted, when Claire received a call that her mother in Chicago had fallen ill, forcing her to leave town for several days and leaving Daniel alone with Emily in the house. Claire hesitated before packing, watching them interact from the doorway, noting the careful distance Daniel maintained while still offering polite support. The way Emily glanced at him for reassurance but quickly looked away, unsure of what to feel. Once Claire left, the quiet of the house seemed heavier, the walls holding all the small, unsaid words. Yet Daniel remained exactly as she had asked, polite, helpful, and respectful, making sure meals were ready, reminders left for chores, and Emily never left wondering if she was overstepping. He kept conversations light, asking about job applications or her day in a tone that was warm but not intimate, always stepping back before any moment could feel too personal. Yet Emily noticed the care in his gestures, the attentiveness that went beyond courtesy. One rainy evening, when the power flickered and the house dimmed, they sat together in the living room with candles, the silence between them filled with thoughts neither dared speak aloud. And Emily's curiosity broke through, the words spilling out before she could stop herself. "You really love her, don't you?" she asked quietly, looking at him with honesty that made Daniel pause. He was startled but not unkind, choosing his words carefully, knowing that a simple truth could never be misinterpreted if spoken with clarity. "Yes," he replied, "more than anything." Emily swallowed the weight of realization pressing on her as she whispered, "She's lucky." Daniel looked at her and nodded, his eyes steady, saying, "So am I." And in that moment, everything unspoken between them, the restraint, the care, the boundaries, was acknowledged silently. A shared understanding of what could have gone wrong but hadn't. The night stretched on, and Daniel stood to end the conversation, aware that lingering too long could confuse emotions. And Emily felt both disappointment and relief, realizing that while he was kind and attentive, he was unwavering in his loyalty to Claire. In the days that followed, Emily grew more confident, more independent, understanding through his quiet example what true respect and boundaries looked like. And Daniel continued to balance care with distance, never faltering, never overstepping, knowing that patience and subtle guidance could rebuild trust and calm the lingering uncertainty. Every small interaction, from helping with groceries to checking on her job applications, carried that gentle discipline, a proof of Daniel's character and commitment, showing Emily that stability didn't always need words and loyalty could be demonstrated in actions as much as intentions. By the time Claire returned home, she sensed that something had shifted. The tension had lessened. The emotional currents that had threatened to complicate everything had been smoothed by careful attention, and the house felt steadier, warmer, and safer than it had in the days before she left. Daniel's promise had held true in every way, proving to Claire that love was not only shown in passion or excitement, but also in restraint, respect, and thoughtful consideration. Emily, too, sensed the unspoken lessons, realizing that kindness and limits could coexist, and that the people who cared most were often those who acted with quiet strength rather than dramatic gestures. The house, once filled with fragile hesitation, now felt balanced, poised on the edge of understanding, setting the stage for the resolution that would bring relief, joy, and clarity for all of them, and showing that sometimes the right choice was the one made in silence, carefully. And with steady hearts, a month had passed since Emily moved in, and life in the house had found a quiet, steady rhythm that felt almost normal. Yet the undercurrent of emotions had settled into a calm awareness, preparing everyone for the inevitable change that was coming. Emily had finally received a job offer in Vancouver, and the excitement in her voice was tempered by sadness as she shared the news with Claire, tears spilling over not from disappointment but from relief and joy, knowing her life was moving forward. Claire hugged her tightly, feeling the mix of pride and bittersweet emotion that came with watching her sister grow stronger and regain independence. Knowing that this farewell would mark the end of a chapter they had survived together, Daniel was present, of course, offering his congratulations with that steady, composed warmth he always carried, careful to celebrate her achievement without overstepping, giving her confidence while still respecting boundaries, making sure she felt supported but never dependent. That last night they shared dinner together, laughter filling the spaces of the house that had once held tension. And small gestures, a careful glance, a shared memory made the room feel lighter, a gentle acknowledgement of the journey they had all been through. When it was time for goodbyes, Emily hugged Daniel, brief but sincere, whispering her gratitude, and he nodded, his expression calm but kind, saying nothing more than what needed to be said, showing through simplicity that care and respect could coexist perfectly. After she left, the house felt both empty and peaceful, and Claire turned to Daniel with a question she had been holding for weeks, the one that had weighed on her mind since Emily's arrival. "You did what I asked, didn't you?" she said, softly, her voice carrying a mixture of relief, curiosity, and quiet emotion. Daniel reached for her hand, his touch familiar and reassuring, and nodded. "Every day," he said simply, without hesitation. And in that moment, Claire realized the depth of his commitment, not just to her, but to the integrity of their family and the love that bound them together. The understanding between them was unspoken yet profound. Love was not about grand gestures or dramatic declarations, but about steady choices, thoughtful restraint, and unwavering support. And Daniel had shown that in every interaction over the past weeks. As they sat together, the house quiet and the night deep, Claire felt a wave of gratitude and reassurance, knowing that their marriage had strengthened, tested by circumstance and guided by trust, patience, and care. Emily's departure was not an ending but a celebration of growth, independence, and the quiet triumph of navigating delicate situations with respect and love. The rooms, now filled with echoes of laughter and shared moments, held the proof that boundaries, when honored, could create trust and stability instead of conflict. And that careful thought and kindness could preserve relationships even under emotional strain. Claire leaned into Daniel, feeling the warmth of their connection, the relief that things had gone as she hoped, and the quiet joy that comes from knowing that the people you love can act with integrity when it matters most. The house, once tense with uncertainty, was now calm, ready for the future. And Claire understood that sometimes the greatest acts of love are the ones that go unnoticed, performed with patience and care, quietly shaping the hearts and lives of everyone involved and leaving them stronger, closer, and ready to face what comes next with trust and understanding.